forgotten how to walk normally. What do you do with your hands? Hi, my name's Russell. I'm the Arboretum Manager here at Wakehurst. You know, for me on this estate, I've forgotten what a healthy ash tree looks like. We're in Loder Valley Nature Reserve here at Wakehurst. It's 150 acres of mixed broadleaf woodland, and there's quite a lot of ash trees in the reserve. So unfortunately, this winter we took the decision to close the woodland on safety grounds.
Ash dieback is a major problem for the British countryside. It's caused by a fungus. It's probably going to kill over 50% of our ash trees. That will cause a huge change to our landscape, and it has knock-on effects, of course, for wildlife.
We're just looking at an ash coppice that's failed and fallen over. So the trees had ash dieback, and what we've found a lot is that with trees that have been significantly infected over a long period of time, is that they're failing at the base where there's a union of several trees. So this is an old coppice stall. Coppicing is where you take a single stem, you cut it at the base very low, and then it regrows. What happens is that from the base multiple stems will appear, and you can carry on that process for a really long time. But the idea is that you're creating a crop that you can harvest once and then harvest again. So when you're looking at trees, it's maybe not just looking at the canopy and looking at the dead wood that's up there, but there's also thinking about the way the tree's grown. Is it on an old coppice stall where there might be decay in there? So what we're looking at here is a mature ash tree with the very early signs of ash dieback. I can tell this by looking up into the crown and seeing where the leaves are about to burst, and just beyond that point we can see the dead twigs without any buds on them. That's just showing me that last year's growth was affected by ash dieback. What we're looking at here is a tree that we've monolithed previously. So we've taken out all of the crown. There was dieback in the crown and made it unsafe, because the nature of the fungus is that it will make the crown really brittle. Those branches are more likely to fall out of the tree. And we've left it as this a column here. In the industry we call them monoliths. But it's a really good example of what a tree's response is to ash dieback and how it's affected. So on the trunk here we've got all this small growth, and this is what we call epicormic growth, and this has been a response to us cutting out the crown of the tree. So the tree's trying to carry on surviving by putting out leafing material. I point out this discoloration. These are the points where the fungi is fighting the tree, and it's really common to see these lesions just at the branch unions, so just here. You know, you can see all the purple, the darkening, and when you peel off the bark, you can see that there's nothing under there. That's all dead. There's no live cambium there at all. Here you'll see the dead and then the live, and you can see how the fungi is just shutting off the water transport system in the tree. And there's the green live cambium there, and then there's the dead here. In the summer we'll come back and look at this, and hopefully for explanation purposes we'll be able to see the discoloration in the leaf here. This is a fungus that's mainly associated with ash trees, Daldinia, and it's commonly known as King Alfred cakes. You really only find this on ash, and the interesting thing about it is it used to be used as a tinder for carrying an ember. You can get an ember on there, and once it's glowing you can kind of put it in a pouch or whatever, and it will just keep going. But it's also a good insect repellent. The smoke from it keeps midges and whatnot away. You know, it's these sort of associations that everyone's thinking about now in woodland management. Is like, you've got a fungi here that's predominantly found on ash. I don't think there's going to be a time when there are no ash trees, but how many other species are there that are related? You know, I think there's something like 1,000 species that have a relationship with ash trees, and then there's maybe 100 that have a really close relationship, and of that 100, There's between 20 and 40 species that really need ash trees in order to survive. We just think of the trees going and, you know, the trees being diseased, but there's a whole, you know, there's the whole web of what's going on, and you try and unpick it. I don't know if it's possible to work out when the peaks and troughs of one thing doing well and one thing doing badly, but over a long enough timeline, you just want to have a healthy, diverse woodland. So we're just going along the path here a bit further, and what we've got down here is where we've removed some trees that were right on the edge of being safe. We can either leave them as a monolith if they're safe to do so, which is standing dead wood, or we can leave the timber on the floor where it's difficult to extract and we make a lot of damage and a lot of mess trying to pull all this timber out of the way. We can leave it there, and it's just mimicking the natural processes in the woodland where trees fall over, and then that provides great habitat for invertebrates, you know, mosses, fungi, lichen, all growing along the wood. And one of the things that we say, you know, is actually a messy woodland is a healthy woodland, because there's a lot of habitat in there. You don't sometimes want things to be pristine and all the dead wood picked up off the floor. We're really changing what the woodlands are going to be looking like, introducing loads and loads of light, and we really expect to see a big flush in the undergrowth there and see that old seed bed that was there, that's been laying dormant, that hasn't had the light, and then there'll be lots of woodland plants and flowers that will come up. Although we've spent a lot of time looking at dead ash trees or dying ash trees, I think it's important to realise that there's a lot of work going on to make sure that we don't lose ash trees from the UK. It's understanding that maybe 80% of the trees will be lost or are susceptible, with maybe 20% that show signs of tolerance. And the work that Q's doing to go around the country collecting seed from different ash populations and then revisiting those sites to see which trees are resistant or tolerant, and then take those seeds, grow them on, and look at what the genetic makeup is, look at the DNA, and really get an understanding of what it's going to take to make a resistant tree that we can then plant out to repopulate our woodlands with ash trees in the future.